Hello again, fellow audiophiles. I am Wave Theory, and in this review, I'm going to talk about a product I have mentioned a lot on this channel, but haven't actually gotten around to doing a review for, and we're going to fix that today. And that is the Chord 2Go Streamer and 2U DDC, or Digital to Digital Converter. These are $1,500 US for the streamer and $745 or about $750 US for the DDC. So these were channel purchases. No one sent them to me. I bought them used on the secondhand market, and I have been using them as reference streamers really for a whole bunch of review gear ever since. So let's dive in today and talk about why I have kept the 2Go and 2U around and used as a reference piece a lot. Here we go.
Hello. I'm one of the reasons that Wave Theory can't spend all of his money on audio gear. He wants you to know that your support is vital for keeping the channel running. So if you enjoy Wave Theory's bussin' review riz and no-cap review style and want to encourage him to stay in the basement so I don't have to listen to his dad jokes as much, like the video and subscribe to the channel. You can also send him a donation on PayPal or sign up for the Patreon. Links are in the description. Now on to the review.
Fill my eyes with that double vision. Okay, so yeah, I've got two 2Gos, as you can see, and we're going to stay in this overhead view here so I can show you the ins and outs of these things and like what makes them tick and what makes them pretty great. All right, and again, like I have kept these, right? Bought them used for about 50 to 60% retail, probably somewhere in there, and they worked really well. And I have been using them. Like I say, on this channel, I have name dropped them a lot in my test gear segments as source gear, and I've never really reviewed them on their own. So that's what we're going to do here. Okay. So again, two of them. Two of the 2Go streamers, a 2U DDC. This right here is my Chord Hugo 2, as the name says right here. And yeah, the 2Go streamer is built to mate directly to either the 2U DDC or the Hugo 2 transportable DAC amp. I've reviewed the Hugo 2 already, see links down in the description. And so I initially got a 2Go to match to the Hugo 2 because I wanted to be able to take this and use it transportably around my house and use it with my Roon network. And the 2Gos are Roon endpoints, which allows that to work really well. All right, some feature stuff real quick here. They are streamers. They are compatible with, or the 2Gos anyway, they are streamers. You control them via a phone app called the Go Figure app, which is compatible with both Android and iOS platforms, and that's how you set these things up and connect them to your Wi-Fi network and configure them and so forth. You can also play local music on them through micro SD card slots on them. I could never get that to work, but it is a thing that may work for you. Again, I got them for their streaming capabilities, and they are they are Roon ready, so they play for Roon just fine. They also work with DLNA, and I'm pretty sure NAA if you want to use them with like HQ Player or something like that, Network Audio Adapter. And that's nice because they'll also handle PCM files up to 32-bit, 768 kilohertz. And DSD up to, I think it's DSD 256. It might be DSD 512. Forgive me, it's one of those two anyway, which should be high enough for most people in there. All right, and so that's nice. The 2U DDC has two flavors of coaxial SPDIF output in RCA and BNC. It's got fiber optic and Toastlink right here, also SPDIF, and it has a USB-A output on it right there as well. And you can switch between the SPDIF and the USB output right here with this button right there. Okay. All right. So you see that like they're attached, right? And I want to show you, this is actually a very slick mechanism that is used to attach these things. You have a little tiny hex key right inside there. So you just loosen this up a little bit Okay, and you don't want to take the screw all the way out because it will just fall right out, but you should be able to loosen it enough that this thing slips out. Okay, and I just want to show you real quick what that looks like when that happens. So let me just loosen this here quickly, just enough to pull these free. Hopefully that's enough. Yep, there we go. Okay. You get these two little pegs that fit in these holes here. These actually just screw in and out right there. Okay, so this threaded hole right there. Okay, like so, one on either end, and this is true on either unit. And then what you see here is you have two micro USB connectors right there. So these are older units that have been around a little bit, so you don't have USB-C on them or anything like that. So I mean, they may feel a little bit dated from a connectivity and feature set, other than the fact that they handle plenty of like upsampled files, you know, high bit rates and all of that kind of stuff, high sampling rate, I should say. Okay, but we've got micro USB there. And what we see here is like we've got these two micro USB jacks here on the 2GO that stick out there, and then they just fit right into, okay, they're just made to slide right in there. And this is true on both here, this unit, and okay, the Hugo 2, and then like those two post things in here. And here they just fit into those holes, and then the screws that I showed you that I just loosened a little bit ago. Okay, what they do is they tighten down on those posts. And I got to tell you, this is a pretty slick, very like robust and secure way of attaching these to each other, because I have never had either of these units ever come loose from the other, like at all. So that has been really nice. Like that is really snug and secure right there. Okay, so I like that. And then of course you have an all aluminum case here. So I mean, these things, they're tough, they're well made and so forth. You do have, okay, the IR sensor in there, because I believe the Hugo 2 remote works for this too, because like the Hugo 2 comes with remote control there as well. Okay, so I mean, then again, like the other features here, so micro USB for charging right there, and it also, like, you can power this device. Okay, this one, if you plug this into the Hugo 2, it just runs off the Hugo 2's battery in there, and then it becomes the charging, like it takes over the charging duties there by plugging it in there via micro USB. Okay, but if you use it with the 2U, you've got to use an external 5-volt power supply. So any like phone charging brick will do. Or you can really have fun with, LPSs, aftermarket power supplies and that sort of thing. And that does impact the performance, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Otherwise, what you see here on the streamer is you get an Ethernet connection, and then there is this, okay, configuration button if you need it. That helps with the initial connection to things and so forth. All right, and then there's just there's the screw that I was telling you about, and then there's an indicator light. Can't really see it here. It's right above. Focus camera. Come on, you can do it. There's an indicator light right by status that will light up when this thing is plugged into something. Plugged into power, I should say. Okay, so well built. They handle a variety of formats and all of that. And again, they're like, I mean, look how small this is. Fits right in the palm of my hand. Okay, right there for easy carrying. And then, of course, it adds this much size to the Hugo 2 if you wish to use it that way, right? Which is nice. Okay, let's return to these two micro SD card slots here. They ostensibly, you can put a micro SD card in there and then use the Go Figure app and play local music files. And again, I really have had some difficulty getting that to work. I don't know if my micro SD cards are just not formatted properly or what the deal is. I haven't gotten it to work, but I also haven't prioritized it much because basically I use these as Rune endpoints around my house mostly. I did take the Hugo 2 with me to CanJam, New York, and use it a little bit to power some easier to drive headphones and stuff. But even then, like I had a DAP with me that had an SPDIF output, and I just connected to the SPDIF connections here, right, on the Hugo 2. All right, so your mileage may vary on that, whether you get local files to play or whether or not that even matters to you. Again, I really just use them as Rune, and that's where they have really shined for me. Last thing that I'm going to say is that the Wi-Fi on these, because they will do Wi-Fi, it is 2.4 gigahertz only. So that is another way that these units are showing their age a bit. You get micro USB and you get 2.4 gigahertz only on the Wi-Fi. And I did find that the range on them is not particularly great. When I first got the one that's attached to the Hugo 2 here, which actually was hilariously the black one, because that was the first one that came available. So I once had the black Hugo plugged into the silver Hugo 2, and then this one came up for sale, and I was like, I like what this does a lot. And so anyway, I was able to color match everything a little bit better than. That's neither here nor there. But the point is, when I first got the first Hugo streamer here, I had just a single Wi-Fi router in my house. Now, I don't have an enormous house, right? It's a multi-level house. So it's one of those, it's like, has a ground floor, and then there's a 2-story section where you have a half flight of stairs that goes up, and then another half flight of stairs that goes down. So it's like a tri-level, basically. And then there is a true basement level underneath the ground level as well. And for the most part, that single router, which was kind of centralized in the house on the garden level, did okay, but I have a sunroom on the back of my house, and that was getting just far enough away where the 2.4 gigahertz on the Hugo was running out of gas. So like, as the crow flies, direct line distance between that router and where I was in this room, okay, to try to use this was probably 25 to 30 feet. Somewhere in there, but also had to go through like at least one interior wall, and then the sunroom was an add-on to the house, which meant they also had to go through, the signal had to go through an exterior wall as well. And I did notice that the 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi on this did have some issues when I would try to stream like a 96 kilohertz sampling rate file from Rune. There would be some connection issues there. I did eventually upgrade to a Netgear Orbi wireless mesh system, and so now there is an access point that's like right on the other side of the wall in the house from the sunroom. Now everything works great. So just keep in mind that the 2.4 gigahertz here, like, you're going to need to be close enough to a Wi-Fi access point to stream particularly high resolution files, because like as Wi-Fi, at the further away you get from your Wi-Fi access point, the less bandwidth can make it there. And when you get to high-res files, particularly if you're going to use like HQ player and network audio adapter with these, and you might, because Chord products, okay, like the Hugo 2, do great with external upsampling like HQ player and that sort of thing. Okay, just keep in mind that you'll want to be close enough to a Wi-Fi access point that you get the proper bandwidth to make that work well. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and move on to sound then. And now typically I do a long list of test gear, things that I have tried these, all of this with. Obviously, one piece that I have used the Hugo streamer with a lot is the Hugo 2, right? Hopefully that's clear. But I have been using this combo right here, mostly from the USB output, but occasionally from one of the SPDIF outputs. I have been using this pair as a Rune endpoint for a whole bunch of review gear that has come through here. It's ever since I got this combo, probably pushing 2 years ago now. Okay. And so like, name the DACs that I've reviewed over the past couple of years. This probably got some time as a source for most, if not all of them, for example, or in there too. So, I mean, it has been used extensively. Just go back and see my review library for the past couple of years, and you'll start to get an idea of what this has been used with. Okay, so what does it sound like? Sounds like a Chord. That's not a cop-out, and that is neither a compliment nor a criticism. It sounds like a Chord. The Chord house sound is very neutral and incisive. It's a little bit forward. Okay, so from a perceived frequency response on this, it's like very transparent, just very neutral, excellent tonal balance through the entire frequency spectrum and so forth on that. But it does have like an active, lively, forward kind of sound to it, where I wouldn't call it aggressive, but it's got some energy to it and it's got some incisiveness to it. So not only is it like a very resolving and detailed kind of presentation coming from this, it is just a little bit forward in that detail presentation. Not too much for me, and you can definitely chill it out if you combine it with like a more chilled DAC and that sort of thing. But the presentation of it, again, is Chord-like. It's neutral, it is incisive. Nice big sound stage to it as well. Lots of holography, and again, lots of resolution, lots of detail retrieval, excellent texturing, great timbre, all of that. But really, truly, it is more transparent than it is anything else. It does an excellent job sonically of just getting out of the way and presenting the music. And honestly, before I really sat down to do this review and did a direct comparison between this and like my Sonore ultraRendu, which we'll talk about in a moment, okay, I really just didn't think this had much of a sound on its own at all. It really just seemed to be very transparent, get out of the way kind of thing, and just let whatever is downstream of it be whatever it is downstream of it, and so forth. I also, like, since we're talking about performance, let's come back to its connectivity. I have found it to be incredibly reliable and stable in the connection once I got that Wi-Fi issue figured out there and stayed close enough to an access point. Every time I plug it in and power it on, my wireless network finds it, and Rune finds it really quickly. Rune Ready app on this pops up really quick, and bang, it's ready to go without a hitch. Almost never any stuttering or any kind of freezes in the sound or like that. Through Wi-Fi, it just works beautifully, okay, at that point. All right, I mentioned earlier that you can kind of scale the performance with power supplies on it too. This thing sounds really darn good if all you do is plug it into a 5-volt, 2-amp, like phone charging wall brick kind of thing. Sounds great. Okay, no problem there. But every time I stepped up in linear power supply quality for this, like I go from a wall wart to, a phone charging brick to like an iFi iPower X kind of thing, 5-volt version of that. The noise floor on this drops a little bit more resolution comes out, and just a little bit more of the holography. Okay, the spatial presentation gets a little bit more three-dimensional. That comes forward a little bit, and then just a little bit more dynamic punch, particularly in the low end. You get a little bit more slam. Kick drums are a bit kickier. Okay, bass guitar string plucks hit harder and that sort of thing when you clean up the power supply. Ditto again, going from an iFi iPower X to like a small green computer power supply. Okay, ditto again, going from a small green computer power supply to like an S-Booster BOTW Mark II. Okay, that sort of thing in there. So, I mean, this one in particular, again, here runs right off the Hugo 2's battery, so you may just have to charge up your Hugo 2 a little bit more frequently or just leave it plugged in. No big deal there, in my opinion, is what it is. But here with the 2U DDC on there, like I think you do want to have a nicer power supply to go with it, just to ring out. I mean, you're already spending what, $1,500, $750. You're already spending $2,250 on this. Give it some good clean power. That's not a phone charging brick. It seems like that should be obvious, but some people struggle with that. All right, so Good, right? Let's come back and compare it to my Sonore ultraRendu, sometimes routed through like a Singxer SU6 DDC, since we have the 2U here, and sometimes not. So I have two Sonore ultraRendu streamers in my main setup here. One of them is just plugged direct USB into my Lampezator Baltic 3 DAC, and that one is powered by a Teddy Pardo Mini Teddy power supply. And then my other ultraRendu is routed through a Singxer SU6 DDC. The ultraRendu is powered by an Uptone LPS1. Okay, those are no longer available, but that's a nice little power supply that's in the same case as an ultraRendu, so they stack well. And then the SU6 DDC there is also powered by one of those small green computer LPSs set at, I believe, 8.5 volts, 8 volts maybe in there. I mentioned one of those small green computer LPSs earlier anyway. Okay, how does this combo of 2Go 2U sound compared to the Sonore ultraRendu direct into the Lampezator? The ultraRendu is a little bit more laid back in its presentation than the 2Go 2U are together. It will strike some as warm. It's still mostly neutral, but it sounds slightly warmer than this combination here. It's maybe just a little bit, tiny bit narrower in the soundstage, but it's a smoother, more relaxed sound than what you get from this combo right here. Both sound great. They're just slightly different. Okay. Now you go to the Singxer SU6 combination there, and within ultraRendu, I should say ultraRendu and SU6, which by the time you get an ultraRendu and you have to buy a power supply for that, and then you get the Singxer SU6, you are probably getting fairly close to the price of these two together, and then just charging them with like a wall wart, a phone charging brick kind of thing, getting close in price there. And with the SU6 kind of brings back some of that neutral and incisive nature that comes with the 2Go 2U sound, but then combined with the ultraRendu, it takes a little bit of the edge off, because again, the ultraRendu is just a little bit smoother, but it sounds closer in character to this combination right here, and they are very, very close to each other in terms of technicals, like holography, resolution, detail retrieval, three-dimensionality, dynamics and impact, like all of that kind of stuff. They are very, very close. So like I have never felt the need to replace my ultraRendus with these guys. So I have just left them alone to be my source gear for like my Lampezator DAC, my Berkeley Alpha DAC, Alpha Series 2 DAC, and all of that kind of thing. And I have kept one of the 2Gos attached to my Hugo 2. And again, I use Hugo 2 a lot because it has single-ended outputs on it here, and like everything else is balanced these days almost. So having a nice high-quality single-ended DAC is great. And then a high-quality Roon endpoint streamer to use with it has been amazing. And then this one I have used as like just a consistent, reliable, transparent, get out of the way streaming endpoint for a lot of the DACs that I have evaluated coming through here, right? Mostly from the USB output, occasionally from SPDIF if needed. And again, it is clean, clear, quiet, holographic, detailed, resolving, but just very, very transparent sound. Okay. So yeah, I am keeping these. I have kept them and I have used them. I like them a lot. They are a bit long in the tooth. Yes, they use micro USB. Yes, they are capped at 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi. If you can work with that they are still right there with any other streamers in their price range here in terms of overall sound quality. They are extremely reliable in their connectivity. I've not had any issues with that once I realized that the 2.4 gigahertz range issue. But once I solved that, it has been just rock solid, stable, and reliable. Turn them on, they are ready to go. And then, of course, excellent sound, and they are well made. Okay. Yeah, that's why I've kept them around. That's why I've used them. That's why you've heard me mention them before. I can trust them. All right. So I'm Wave Theory. This has been my review of the Chord 2Go streamer and 2U DDC. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment. Check out my PayPal, my Patreon. Generally do those things you do to support YouTube channels. And as always, enjoy the music.